As we mentioned at the top of the show, parts of Nebraska saw meaningful rain Sunday into Monday. That precipitation helped make a big change for long-held drought areas. UNL climatologist Brian Fuchs joined us Thursday to show where the state currently stands as of this week's U.S. Drought Monitor. Describe for me the rains that we saw, the major rains here in Nebraska over the weekend.
Well, what we saw was realistically one of the first big thunderstorm setups that we had this year. We had some warm air pushing in from the south, and all of a sudden the cold air from the north clashed. And right over central Nebraska into eastern Nebraska, we had some really good complexes of thunderstorms, very intense thunderstorms set up. And not only did they bring with it rain, but pretty substantial rain for some areas, upwards of over 7 inches of rain in that event. And then out in western Nebraska, we also picked up some good rain. Some areas had over an inch of rain and even some wet snow mixed in with that. And that really helped with the conditions out in western Nebraska as well.
The U.S. Drought Monitor released by you guys this morning shows a big change for Nebraska. 20% of the state no longer in drought, the most since June of 2012. That's a huge change for Nebraska.
Yeah, we did see a pretty good improvement over last week's Drought Monitor with this week's release, and almost a 17% reduction in the total amount of drought from last week to this week, which is substantial in our state. And what we're seeing is some of these areas that had been dry for the most part this year really picked up their first significant rainfall, which was good to see.
Are there areas that are also close to either lessening their categorization or completely exiting drought status?
Yeah, I think eastern Nebraska definitely is in a situation where we're not seeing as much drought, and we're right on the cusp of, another good event like this. We're going to probably see some more improvement. And the far western panhandle's in pretty good shape. There's some drought-free areas out there, and some that are just a little dry that, a couple good rain events will be out of really concern out there. But there are some areas that still have missed out, and we're still working on hopefully seeing some improvement in those areas.
One of those is southwest Nebraska. How dry is it there?
In southwest Nebraska, it seems like all the rain events and snow events that we've seen over the last year or so have either been to the north or to the east of those locations. It's very similar to what we're seeing in western Kansas down into the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles, that over the last year to 2 years, this area has just continually missed out on precipitation and very little chance of any recovery.
And California the same way, very dry as well.
Yeah, California is a pretty bad situation. Their third dry year in a row. The snowpack up in the mountains this winter was really bad. And as we go into the dry time of year out there, we're already seeing fires taking off, and there are going to be some water issues that are going to continue to develop out in California.
For Nebraska, if you were in one of these areas that got a lot of rain over the weekend, you feel pretty good, you're no longer in drought, but you say it's important to remember this was not really a silver bullet for the state.
Yeah, one rain event is good, but it's not going to cure all the problems. For a lot of the state, we're still below normal for the calendar year, meaning since January 1st to present, and only those few areas south of the Platte River along the I-80 corridor that picked up the greatest rains over the weekend, they're the only areas that are actually showing a surplus for the calendar year. So we need to continue to see regular rainfall events. The cooler temperatures are helping, but for a lot of Nebraska, several more rain events are going to be very beneficial.